And we got some great questions we're going to get to, and that they came up with that I think are spectacular. And I know
Awesome.
we did watch your YouTube video that you made. Um, but I need first of all, I need everybody to give their attention to their screen. But go ahead and take it away. The floor is yours.
Well, I guess we usually start with introductions. Thank you again, Mr. Prygot, for having me back to speak to your amazing students down in the SIP. I am calling in today from California. My name is Lashonda King, also known as the Compton Counselor or Miss King Beauty Queen. I am, I'm all kind of stuff. So Mr. Prygot and I met when I was in graduate school to become a counselor. So that is why I go by the Compton Counselor. I'm from Compton and I'm a counselor. So I have been a pre-K, middle school, elementary school, and high school counselor. So I love working with young people. I'm also a licensed cosmetologist and a makeup artist. And I am currently a flight attendant, which is why I am here sharing time with you all today. I'm originally from Compton, California. I'm the oldest of three daughters, and my parents are super amazing. They did not have the opportunity to go to college, so they made sure that my sisters and I stayed really focused between academics and also athletics. I played basketball, volleyball, and when I was an adult, I played full contact tackle football. So my parents kept us focused and encouraged us to, do well in school. And so that took me to college at UC Berkeley. I went to an HBCU as well. I went to Spelman College in Atlanta. I have a master's in athletic administration from Michigan State, and I also have a master's in counseling from Austin Peay State University. Go P. That's pretty much it. I'm super excited to be here today. Oh yeah, and I have a cosmetology license from an adult school in California because I love doing hair on top of everything else. So it's really nice to meet everyone, and thank you for having me.
So you can you tell us a little bit about we saw the video, but
Mhm.
um, and like I said, we also looked at Sisters of the Skies, and we looked at representation in the aviation industry. So
Mhm.
how did you get into it, and can you talk a little bit more about what all a flight attendant does? It's not just the drinks and the smiles and the snacks, like you said.
Mhm. No, so the my first experience with aviation actually was when I was 10. And so it's cool that I get to speak to people from Mississippi today because that's where my first aviation experience started. So the very first flight that I ever took in life, I was by myself actually. And I was 10 years old and I flew from Los Angeles, California to Jackson, Mississippi. So the first flight that I ever took was going to Jackson, Mississippi. And I just remember being so amazed at how something so huge could fly. I remember looking at the wings and seeing all the parts of the wing move and a little bit of turbulence. And, it was just really, really interesting to me since I was a kid. When I was younger, my dad built things. And so I grew up building remote control cars and remote control trucks and things of that nature. And so I've always been really fascinated with technology and transportation engines and stuff like that. So I was working in education and corporate America and different things for a while. And I decided that I wanted to take a break from doing full time traditional type jobs so that I could one take a reset and a break, and then also I am working on building a Black college and career app that introduces Black students and families to HBCUs and careers. So I became a flight attendant so that I would have the ability to travel and meet new people and to go visit HBCUs and also give me time to work on my app. So that's how I got into being a flight attendant. What a flight attendant does is really, they are in control of the plane in the cabin. So where the pilots sit at to fly the plane, we call that the flight deck. Back in the day, they used to call it the cockpit, but it's also for women. So we don't call it the cockpit anymore. We call it the flight deck. So the flight deck, the pilot and the first officer, they command and control the plane there. But in the cabin, there's anywhere between 50 to 300 people that have to be taken care of from a safety standpoint, taken care of from like a rules and regulations standpoint, and also taken care of from a service standpoint. So that's what flight attendants do. Back in the day, they used to call them stewardesses, and they were all women. They could not be married. They couldn't have children. They had to be pretty. They had to be tall. They had to be thin. And pretty much most of them were white. The industry has changed a lot. And now flight attendants are recognized for all the things that we do to keep the plane safe. So some of the flight attendants were actually responsible for helping the last aircraft that was going to do some damage during 9/11. Like, the flight attendants were part of helping that aircraft not to do the damage it was supposed to do. We are responsible for any medical emergencies that come on board, safety emergencies. Like, sometimes, if you remember when all those phones were catching on fire, the Galaxy Note something, like, we get trained in basic firefighting techniques. So if there is a fire on board, we know how to put it out. We have different equipment that's hidden all throughout the plane to use in the event of an emergency. If there's a scared passenger, we do get some training on how to calm people down. And then we also get training on how to restrain people if they get a little bit too turned or too unruly. So we learn about basic medical emergencies, how to handle a seizure, someone's having extreme motion sickness, they're having a psychotic episode. And then also, flight attendants come from all different backgrounds. I actually flew with this guy in New York who's a flight attendant, but he's also a medical doctor. I am a counselor. So when people are working with me as a flight attendant and somebody is being, not so nice, sometimes they send me over, because sometimes my counseling skills and my people skills can help de-escalate the situation. But yes, on top of safety, and making sure that the cabin is controlled, people are complying with the federal laws and the regulations of the airline, we also do provide customer service in the form of food, snacks, beverages and stuff like that. We're also responsible for making sure all the safety equipment is intact and it's working properly. We're also responsible for making sure that the doors and the emergency exits, stay ready to use. So we have a lot of responsibility, other than being cute and serving drinks.
Now, one thing we did look at last week is we looked at the amount of representation that is changing in the industry. Because like you said, for the longest time, nearly every professional, male or female, in the aviation industry was white. So how important is that, and how much has that changed, and what are these opportunities for some of these young minority students?
Yeah, so there are definitely lots of opportunities for underrepresented students to get into aviation. A lot of people don't know, but you can actually get a private pilot license when you're 16. So you could have a driver's license and a pilot license at the same time. Some students start to fly as young as like 10 or 11. There is an organization called OBAP, which is the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, and then also Sisters of the Skies, which you all saw. And those organizations do work with local communities to offer workshops, trainings. They provide mentors and all kind of stuff to get people into being in different parts of aviation and aerospace. There is a push right now. A lot of pilots are going to be retiring in the next 10 years. And to be honest, a lot of them are white males. And so there's a really big push right now to get more people of color and more women into becoming pilots. I actually got accepted to a program through United Airlines to become a pilot. I haven't decided if I'm going to become a pilot yet, but I did get accepted to a pilot training program. And a month ago, I flew a plane for the first time. And it was so awesome. The plane was like, it's 4 seats and it had the one little engine to go, I flew a plane. I took off and I landed, and it was so scary, but cool at the same time. And a lot of airlines are actively recruiting, looking for people of color to join, looking for women to join. And also you're starting to see more pictures of people from different backgrounds. Like, one of my very good friends is she's an aircraft mechanic, and she's a Black woman, and Black women only represent half of 1%. So 0.5% of all aviation mechanics. And not only is she an aviation mechanic, but she's also a supervisor. So she supervises the engines being fixed for United Airlines. And she is one of the very few Black women who do that job, but she let herself be interviewed. I'm sharing pictures of people of color doing different jobs, so I'm all about, trying to get people to know that therethere's different careers in aviation and you can do it regardless of your race, where you're from, your gender. Listen, girls can sling heavy bags too. Non-binary people can be, in dresses and heels and be stunting on the world too. So, the industry is becoming more diverse and more inclusive, for all people, of all genders and all backgrounds. And I love it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Now one thing you have talked about in the past as well is the education in aviation, because in Mississippi we actually have two aviation programs, and that's Hines
Yeah.
College and Delta State University.
Hmm.
Delta State has one of the only bachelors in aeronautics in the country, and that's right
Yeah.
here. Now, one thing you talked about also on your YouTube video was that
Hmm.
if you're a person that won't, if you don't like, if you're a person that wants to get out of where you are and you want to travel,
Hmm.
this could be a good field to get into, because if you don't have, especially if you don't have any kids and that's not something important to you, you want to be around the country and the world. I think the opportunity is there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I also want to actually dispel a myth that you're, kind of saying right now. People who are flight attendants have families too. I have some friends who are married and have children. I have friends who are single parents and have children. You do need to have a support system, because you do have to fly for work and the baby or the kids can't come with you. But it is actually not true that, you can be. That's why back in the day they wanted them to be unmarried and without children. But totally right now, tons of people have, children. One of my friends, her YouTube is the Fly Mom, and she talks about what life is like as a parent who's a flight attendant, as a single mom, and it's super awesome. If you want to get out and about, having any career in aviation is going to let you do that, because you get flight benefits and you can fly anywhere for either free or for a little bit of money for taxes and fees. Even if you work on the ground, so say you work as a ramp agent, handling bags, or say you work as a mechanic at the airport, or you work in customer service or reservations at home, you still get flight benefits for you, your spouse, or one companion and your kids. So you get to see the world or see the country and have access to travel if you work anywhere in aviation, really.
That's awesome. Now, and some of the cool places you've been lately, you've been to the Dominican Republic, you've been to Cuba, Mexico.
Yeah,
What are some other cool places you've been just recently?
I've been to Bermuda. I like also visiting different parts of the country. So I've been to, like, that I would never think I would get to. So I've been to like Martha's Vineyard. I've been to Vermont.
Oh, wow.
I've been to at this point, between personal travel and work travel, I think I've been in 42 or 43 states,
Wow.
and I have been to several other countries. But yeah.
That that is awesome. Now, and I've got some incredible questions here. I'm gonna try to get to as many of these as I can.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Uh, Hold on. Okay, here's a good one. This is from Cadence Mo, and these are all night graders. This is from Cadence,
Okay.
and you talked a little bit about this, and you said, "What would you do?" She asked, "What would you do if someone is afraid of flying and started panicking?"
I understand, Cadence. That happens a lot. And believe it or not, some flight attendants are scared of flying too. But some people in life choose to push through their fear and still do stuff. So if I, encounter, let's say, a customer on board who's afraid of flying and they panic, then I would go over to try and calm them down. I usually bring water with me. And I like I like giving even adults like our plastic wings. I come over with a smile, even when I have on a mask, like you can still see my smile in my eyes. So I come over with a smile, I come down, I bend myself down to, where we're eye level. And I ask them, is there something I can do to help them? I remind them to breathe. Sometimes I share some information about what may be going on. I explain like what turbulence is. I explain, how to know if we're really going to be in trouble so that they can know that we're not actually in trouble. I ask them, is anything else going on in their life that's causing them to feel extra stress? That's where my counseling side is really helpful, at just caring about people. And I tell them, like, these are my little wings. And every time you touch them, just think of my smile and think of me coming over here to check on you. And so I give them wings and I make them put them on if they want to. And then I come back and check on them throughout the flight, because most people will tell you when they get on board, you can either see it in their face, or some people will tell you, hey, I'm an anxious flyer, or I'm a nervous flyer. And so I just tell my crew, hey, we have a nervous flyer in 14B or 14 Bravo, and so we try and check on them throughout the flight, especially if it's a longer one.
Wow. And that just goes to show you the amount of different skills that you all have. And I think that's something that is really lost, that it really does take a special person to do the job well. Now here's
Oh, yes, it
one more
does.
about the aircraft. This is a good question. This is from Jaden Latiker, and he asked, how many different types of planes have you been on?
Well, Jaden, let's see. I would say I've been on about maybe 10 different types. So now I've been on the Cessna, with the one that I flew, a Cessna 172. And in the Boeing family, I've been on a 737. So Cessna 737, 757, 767, 77, 87. And then in the Airbus family, I've been on 319, 320, 321, Embraer, 190, 175, CRJ. What else? I think I've been on about 12 or 13 different aircraft.
Well, and that also show, because you said you have to have basic knowledge of that aircraft. That's all, that many more types of planes you have to know things about.
So in terms of working, I have only worked on 4 aircraft. So I am trained and certified to be able to know how to operate the emergency equipment and the exits on the Airbus 319, 320, and 321, and also the Embraer 190. But because I do have that knowledge, it does transfer over to some of the other planes. If there was an emergency, I can help out. So yeah.
Okay. This is from RJ Jones, and this is another really good question. He asked, is it hard being taken serious as a female flight attendant?
I think that I would say yes, because in general, our country is rooted in patriarchy, and patriarchy says men are the boss, when really that's not true, because women were kind of the boss. But seriously, so in general, we come from a country that is big in patriarchy, and so men are seen as the boss, and men are seen as figures of authority. Like a lot of police officers are men, a lot of judges are men, a lot of firefighters are men. So all these careers. So people don't recognize that I'm a flight attendant, but I'm the boss of this plane. If I don't want you on here because you're acting up, I will call the captain and we will divert and we'll put you off the plane. So we are authority figures on the plane too, but who wants to act all bossy all the time? But as a woman, sometimes people don't always take you to be a leader or an authority figure. Sometimes they'll ignore you and speak to the male flight attendant who might be in the crew, but I don't take that. I am very assertive. I'm not aggressive, but I'm also not passive. I will, respectfully command the attention and the respect that I am supposed to have. And then we'll go from there, but yeah, some people do make it about gender, when it comes to like compliance and following rules, but not on my watch.
Oh, I got you. I mean, because you have other people to worry about their safety as well.
Yes.
This is not, I never thought to ask this to anybody. This is a great question from Derek Bush. And he asked, do you get paid by the hour or by the mile?
So it's a combination of both, but it also depends on the airline. So one of the other airlines kind of pays them by the nautical mile. We get paid by the hour. So back in the day when trains was the only way to get around, they created something called the Railway Act. So the Railway Act meant when the conductor or the engineer of the train, when the engineer released they closed the train door, and when the engineer released the brake, that's when the pay started to happen. So in the aviation world, we also use that model. So when the boarding door up front closes and when the pilot takes off the emergency or the parking brake, that's when our pay time starts. However, we do get a small amount of pay per hour called per diem. So say if I'm gone for 2 days, I'll get per diem for 48 hours, let's say, at $2.15 an hour. So that's supposed to cover food and stuff like that while I'm traveling. But actual, like my hourly rate, like the 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever an hour you make, that is called flight time. And that is from when the pilot releases the parking brake till the parking brake is back on and the boarding door opens. So when there's delays and all those things, I'm getting that $2.15 an hour per diem, but I'm not getting paid my 20 or 30 or $40 an hour. So when people say, "Oh, you just
y'all get
to be
upset for
delayed,"
passengers.
yeah, exactly. So people think we want to be delayed. And I'm like, no, we don't, because we're not getting paid right now.
Wow.
So yeah, we want things to be on time too.
All right, this is a good, and this can honestly be for any industry.
Okay.
It's from Taranisha Jackson. I'm sorry, Taranisha. I apologize.
Taranisha.
Yes.
Get it right.
She asked, how did you know which airline was the best for you?
That is a great question, actually. So culture is really important to me. So like I fly on all the airlines. And so when thinking about where I wanted to work, I wanted to be at a place where I felt like I'm a whole vibe. Like if you're, I mean, yeah, I'm sure you can tell right now, I'm not just like the standard counselor. Like if I worked at your high school or your middle school, like, I'm not standard. So I couldn't work at an airline where I felt like everything might have been standard, So part of the reason why I chose the airline that I work at now is because when I fly them, the flight attendants I see have like, bubbly personalities, they're kind of swaggy, so I chose to be with a company that suited my personality because personality and accepting me as part of like the culture of the company. So
Okay. And that would, and honestly, that would be within any field. You want to always
yes.
find the, and even if you never want to get on an airplane, I think it's important for anybody seeing this now or anybody seeing this later. The key is to find the place that is best for you and your personality. It's not always
Yes.
about the highest salary because you can't
No,
sign on
because
people.
money, like I may not make the most money, but like I get to do things that other people don't get to. Like if I have a homegirl who like, wants to have dinner, I could fly to New York tonight and go have dinner with her if I feel like it.
That's awesome.
Like one time I was like hanging out with a friend in DC and then I was talking to someone and I wanted to take them out on a date. I flew all the way to Dallas, Texas just to take someone on a date because I can. And not every industry can say that they can do that. So
That's very true. This is for Shay Lucky. She asked, how many pilots do you need on each flight?
it depends on the aircraft and it depends on the duration of the flight. So most of the aircraft need two. So two is the minimum on a commercial aircraft because if one pilot becomes incapacitated, then the other pilot has to take over. There are some trips that go overseas that are over a certain amount of hours and they need to have 3 or 4. So it just depends on the aircraft and how long the trip is going to be. The FAA does set regulations for how many pilots are required for each flight.
This was kind of funny, but I've never thought about this. This is Jordan Conway, and he asked,
Okay, come on.
Have you ever been left behind in another city?
Oh gosh, almost. So as you see me skirting in here today, I am punctual, but sometimes I get caught up. And one time, so when you stay overnight, you stay at the hotel with all your crew, and there's a shuttle, a bus or a van or something that takes you to the airport the next day to finish your trip. Well, one time I overslept and my alarm didn't go off because I set it for PM instead of AM. So I missed my shuttle and my crew was at the airport and I was still at the hotel sleep and I happened to just wake up. So I jumped up, threw on my uniform and I had to take an Uber or a Lyft to get over to the airport. But yeah, I haven't been, but almost.
Now, I have definitely taken flight crew members in the Uber before.
Right. Like, yes.
And this is one from Alayla Kirkland.
Uh-huh.
And she's asking, what is the retirement age for a flight attendant?
So there's no retirement age. There is a retirement time frame, and that depends on the airline. So some airlines you have to work there for 20 years to retire. Some you can work there for 15. But there's people who actually retire from other careers and they become a flight attendant as their second career. Like there's actually one of my coworkers. He's a retired search and rescue detective for the sheriff's department. Him and his search and rescue dog actually were featured in the news because they were in 9/11 searching for bodies in the rubble. And so he was a sheriff detective for 20 years and then became a flight attendant. So he's like 6 years into that. I met another person who was a medevac nurse. So the ones that, help out on the helicopter when somebody is critically injured and they have to like airlift them somewhere. She was a medevac nurse for 30 years and she's starting her second career as a flight attendant. So I've seen people, there are some people for some of the other airlines, like in their 70s and 80s, who are still flight attendants,
Yeah.
I'm not working till I'm 80, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but
more power to them.
still able to do the job and do it well. I mean, why not if you want to?
Yeah, I don't want
From,
to, but yes.
from J. Ashton Williams, and he asked, "What is the craziest moment that's ever happened on a flight?"
Craziest? I mean, that's like relative. Let's see. Well, I don't really think I've had, so I'm gonna try not to use that word crazy. I'm gonna say just crazy is kind of like, we shouldn't say that word, but the most the scariest moment for me was like a couple months ago. I was working a flight from Cancun, Mexico back to Los Angeles, and something was wrong with one of our engines. And I like, so there's a certain ring that comes across when the pilot needs to say, like, there's something you need to know now. And I missed it. So then I only got like a little bit of information from the other flight attendant, and I didn't know for sure what was going on. I just knew that instead of going to LA, we had to divert to El Paso, Texas. And so, all of a sudden, then I become responsible for trying to convince 100 and something people that we're not going to crash. So if you can imagine, thinking you're just getting off vacation, you're going from Cancun, you're going back home to LA, and then all of a sudden the screen says you're going to El Paso, Texas. So we had to keep people calm and reassure them that if we were still walking around, that meant we were going to be okay. But we understood it was scary, but it wasn't. We also had like a medical emergency on board. Like a couple weeks ago, I had this girl coming to the restroom in the front, and she looked very off, and I was like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "I'm just feeling really dizzy." She starts going, like, her eyes starts rolling back, and then I had to catch her. And so, I mean, things happen. People don't get enough sleep, they don't hydrate and drink water, they drink too much alcohol, they're on medicine. They might not have gotten any sleep, it might be dealing with depression or loss. Like, so many things happen on a plane. So yeah, that's the thing that
That's crazy. This is from David Ford, and he asked, "How long was your training to become a flight attendant?"
So for my particular airline, the training was 5.5 weeks. So depending on the airline, how many aircraft you have to do, they range anywhere between 4.5 up to 8 weeks. So, some of the airlines with way more planes and stuff, they have a little bit of a longer training because you do have to learn all the requirements to be certified on all the airlines that the carrier has.
Okay. Now, one thing that you haven't gotten to that I know you did on the YouTube video, and this is very important for anybody watching now or later, is that you said a plane can fly with just one engine.
Yeah, a plane can fly with just one engine. So although they have two engines, some have three and four. But a standard commercial plane has two engines, and planes can't fly with one engine. They're actually made to be able to fly with one engine, but to be more efficient and for safety, they fly with two. So if one of the engines goes out, or in my case, there was something wrong with the oil pump or something with one of the engines, so the pilot had to completely shut it off. So he had to like turn off the engine mid-flight, but the plane can still fly with one engine. It's just that the pilots get trained to know how to like manage the controls so that it balances stuff out with one engine. But yeah, planes can fly with one engine. And actually, if both engines were to go out, they can also glide for a certain amount of time and still be able to land safely, even if they don't have any engine power. So.
And also, and I heard this from a pilot, it's not, and because I was on the plane that got struck by lightning once, and it's about scared me to death. I about had a heart attack, but that is actually very common.
Yeah, because it's a big metal tube in the air. So, you're flying at 35,000 feet. And so that's where, lightning and a lot of stuff are. And the amount of metal that's in the plane, kind of attracts the electricity of the lightning. I have not been on a plane that's been struck by lightning yet. And I don't hope to be, but, I have heard from pilots that it's more common than people think.
Man, it did a number on me. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was thinking, of course it would, because you don't know what the heck is going on, and so it's not something that we can, plan for. It just happens.
Yeah, bless that poor flight attendant's heart. It even scared her to death. So it was the first time in a 15-year career that she'd ever seen that.
Yeah,
She was hyperventilating.
I understand.
But we're almost out of time, and I really appreciate any time you make for us. But
Yeah.
Like I've always, like I've asked you before,
Hmm.
it's like I tell them, their goal in life may never to be to step foot on an airplane. But just
It
like,
better be. Get on a plane. The world is huge.
oh, I agree. But just like everybody in this room, you grew up black in the United States, but
Blackity black.
yeah, and you grew up in Compton, California, which we all know is, you know,
The hood.
yeah, it's the hood. So you've parlayed that to become extremely successful. So even if they never want a career in aviation, what can they do to be successful like someone like you and follow your footsteps?
Yo, be a great person. Be a dope person. Like, don't be lame. Don't pick on other people. If you feel sad or you feel some kind of way inside, like, go get help for that instead of being like rude or like shady to like your fellow person. Because what goes around comes around. Don't let anybody like limit your dreams. Sometimes people tell you that you can't do stuff because they're scared to do it. Like, that goes for family. Sometimes I call them frenemies, because friends are only going to encourage you. Um, it's okay to, like, get to know people and date, but don't put your dreams and what you want and what you desire for your life to the back burner for anybody else. Um, Always, like, pay attention in school, be respectful, speak up for yourself when you need to. Um, don't be that dude, don't be that chick, don't be that person. Like, don't be trifling. Just, school is important. If you don't like traditional school, I love that I went to cosmetology school. There's schools for everything you want to do in life. Use resources like Google, ONET, and other like career research tools to see what you want to be. Like, don't be limited. Don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. Like, oh, you're from Mississippi. Oh, you from this small town. Oh, you from the hood. Oh, you talk like this. Yes, I do. And I articulate when I want to. So don't let anybody tell you what you can't be. Always know that you're amazing. You're great. Black is beautiful. Being a woman is powerful and strong. And I'm also queer. So being queer is fabulous and amazing as well. Like, don't let nobody block your blessings or hate on you. Like, just be great. That's it.
Yeah, and you've got an unbelievable backstory. If you want to give them your social media so they can follow you, 'cause
Yeah.
you're a great Instagram follow.
So the my counseling Instagram is the Compton Counselor, and my aviation Instagram is Fly Queen King, because I am a queen and my last name is King, so I'm Fly Queen King. And then if you like hair, I do hair too, so I am Miss King Beauty Queen on Instagram.
Yeah, and when we can finally have guests again, we'd love to have you on campus.
I would love to, and I can, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially, 'cause you've flown to our big airport we have here in Jackson.
Yeah.
But
I
again,
wish I could have showed you all the PowerPoint, but I know I can't because we're out of time. But I appreciate
you
you
can
all having me.
take us through it real quick. We still got a few minutes.
Oh, okay. We'll see here. It's just, we already went over it last time, but let's see if I can get my screen share to work really quick. What time you all done in that
We
class?
got 9 minutes.
Oh we were good.
Just showing some high points because, as like you said, there's a lot of careers on the ground. That,
There are.
a lot of careers on the ground that are always looking for people,
Yes, there are.
especially in the bigger cities because they say I want to get out of Mississippi. Atlanta, right down the road, has the busiest airport in the United States.
In the world, actually, one of
Oh,
the biggest
wow.
airports in the world. It's
Yeah.
very, very, very Hartsfield is very busy. Okay, let's see here. Can you all see my screen?
I can.
Awesome. So at the bottom, you can see the Compton Counselor. So that's how it is if you want to find me. But I chose in this video to particularly highlight Black women in aviation. And while I also highlight Black men and Black non-binary people, I definitely wanted to highlight women because we are grossly underrepresented in all areas of aviation, except flight attending. So, all right. So one of the careers that people know about are the airport operations or the customer service agents. Those are the faces of the airlines. They are the ones who check you in, get your bags, handle if you have any connection issues or any delays. They have to have a really good problem solving background. They have to be patient. They have to be able to lift anywhere between 50 and 70 pounds for those bags, but they have to be really good with people and able to kind of handle pressure. One thing that I do is a flight attendant. This is me in the middle with some of my classmates when we graduated from our flight attendant training. The bottom picture is a crew from an international airline. I believe it's Ethiopian. And then one of the stewardesses from back in the days, you see her with her cute afro and her shorts, but you see they had to dress a little different than we dress now. In the center at the bottom, you see with the red blazer on, that's my cousin Corliss. Corliss King is a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines, and she actually is, I think, the vice president of the union that represents flight attendants. So she makes sure that lawmakers hear us, our safety concerns, make sure we have our rights in order and make sure that people don't discriminate against us. And this is our pilot slide. So if you fly a plane, that's called a fixed wing. If you fly a helicopter, that's called a rotary wing because it goes in a circle. But the organization Sisters of the Skies are the ladies that you see at the top. They are a organization that is made up of Black women who are pilots, both civilian and military pilots. The young lady that you see to the right is one of my sorority sisters. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and she is thought to be the first wheelchair-bound disabled pilot to receive her private pilot license. The other is one of the first fighter pilots for the Navy, and you see that aircraft that she flies at the bottom, super, super dope. And there's all kind of, like, people fly planes with people, that's called commercial, but people also fly private planes, charter planes, how you get all your Amazon, your mail, people fly cargo planes. So there's a plethora of ways that you can be a pilot.
Has a huge footprint for UPS. Your UPS
Yes.
airfield out here is gigantic, filled with planes.
Right, exactly. And so this beautiful specimen that you see in the top right is what an engine looks like behind the cowling. And the cowling is that cover, that white cover that you see right there that's covering it. But behind the cowlings, you see all those beautiful veins and all those beautiful pipes and all those wires. Like, that's what makes the plane go round. At the bottom in the flight deck there, that's my friend Camille. That's the one I was telling you all about, who is a maintenance overhaul supervisor for United. And she runs a shop of about 100 or 150 male mechanics.
Wow.
So that's me standing next to a Boeing 777, aka a 777 engine. That engine, without the cowlings, is about 13 or 14 feet tall. And so that is one of the bigger planes that there are in the world. It's not the biggest, but it's one of the bigger. On the ground, we have ground operations agents. So people who handle the bags, those are the ones you see driving the tugs that push and pull the plane, because planes don't have a reverse. So if the plane has to go backwards, a tug has to push it so that it can get out. Yeah, so it doesn't have a reverse, so it can't back itself out. So whenever a plane is getting ready to leave, there's a small but steady, a real sturdy vehicle called a tug that pushes it out. So the ground operations folks or the ramp agents do that. They handle the bags. You see them, guiding the planes in with their wands and handling everything below the wing is what we call it. Also, to make sure that the thousands and thousands of airlines and airplanes that are in the air at one time are safe, we have air traffic control folks, and those people are monitoring weather, radar reports. If you like action and you're good at following details and like keeping up with stuff, air traffic control is a great career to pursue. It's very stressful, but if you can handle stress and still make it happen, that's a really good career too. The lady that you see in the center is the first Black woman who's an air traffic controller. And she actually had 5 children while she was an air traffic controller. So listen, mamas, make it happen. Another thing that is under the umbrella of aviation and also aeronautics or aerospace is a mechanical or an electrical engineer. So engineers are the people who design things. So whether that's engines, missiles, compressors, sometimes they can become astronauts, sometimes they work in factories, sometimes they work for airlines, but engineers come of all backgrounds. If you like to build stuff, if you like to break stuff and fix it, if you like math, if you like your, physics class, and, you're always tinkering with like dominoes, or, you like figuring stuff out, engineering might be a good career for
Yeah,
you to
and
consider.
Jackson State has their new engineering program. It's getting to be one of the top in the country right here in Jackson.
Yeah, you all have some great resources there in Mississippi. I'm very pro historically Black college, so you all have some HBCUs there, and so yeah. These are some of the HBCUs that have programs in aviation. So you have Delaware State, Hampton University, Langston, Edward Waters College, Norfolk State, Morris Brown, Tennessee State or TSU, Florida Memorial, which is where my sister works and coaches basketball, in Elizabeth City State University. Also, like I said, Black Pilots of America, you have Sisters of the Skies, OBAP, but you also have a middle school and high school and college organization called NSBE, which is the National Society of Black Engineers that is made up of all kind of engineers. So petroleum engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, biomedical
Yeah, and
engineers.
NSBE is also very active at PWIs as well, because LSU,
Yes.
Mississippi State both have huge chapters of NSBE.
Yeah, so NSBE is definitely important to have at PWIs because it does provide a safe space for Black engineers to be able to, connect with each other, because they are going to be less represented on campus than their non-Black counterparts. So, I think that's pretty much it, for the presentation.
We got right up on the bell.
Oh, perfect. Well, I love you, Greg. Thank you for having me. Bye, everybody. Be amazing.
See ya. Thank you. I'll
Have
talk
a
to you
great day. Bye.